as much as we talk about making more money, we should also be talking about reducing or eliminating our expenses. But that's not as sexy of a topic. It's more alluring for us to talk about making more money, finding a new business, investing in a new property versus figuring out a way to pay down or off your expenses. Our biggest expenses are where we live, what we drive, and the cost to maintain those things. And when you position yourself in a way that you have low to no expenses, you can begin to play the game of life from a very different perspective. But it takes strategy, it takes intention, and it takes discipline. Because when you start making more money, you tend to spend more money on more things. The more money you get, now you got to buy a bigger house because you want to make sure that you reduce your tax liability. You got to buy 18 businesses. You got to buy all of these different things. And then the more you expand, the more you'll have to unravel when that time comes to cash in. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but for those people who might want a different approach to striking a balance, I would say that there are times where you should increase your income or look at strategies to increase your income, and times where you should be looking at approaches to reduce and or eliminate your expenses. And so for me, intentionally investing is one way of doing that. For example, you investing or purchasing a property, which is a business. And when you've come to a point where it's time to exit that business, when you've reached for example, when you've reached your number in terms of appreciation, or when the cost outweighs the benefit, you then sell that business and use those proceeds to pay down or off your car or your home or any other mandatory expenses that you have in your life. And while some people will look at that and say that that is not the best approach because of the capital gains that you'll have to pay and all of these things, the choice is really a personal choice. Because if you're someone who wants to be able to have a higher risk tolerance so that you can play the game in a very different way, you might want to position yourself that you have less to lose. You might want to position yourself such that you can invest more money over here, because all of your mandatory expenses are next to nothing and can be covered by this pot of money that you have over here. So, don't just think about making more money. Think about making smarter financial decisions. Think about balancing making more money with reducing your costs, and you'll find your way. You'll find your way to financial freedom easily.